right? During COVID-19, they looked at the disparities in black health and they kept propagating that. But at the same time, they was telling you go get a vaccine that Krispy Kremes. So when I look at the way that black men are thinking and operating and moving and black women, if we're sick right now, where do we start at the root? Because I've been studying a lot about being in nature. There's a concept called Yoku Shinrin. And in the 1980s, the Japanese government would take people out into the forest because there was such a big mental health issue, crisis that was going on, and they would have you spend 2 days in the forest. And what it showed is it decreased cortisol levels by 50% and increased cancer killing cells in your body. So this was their way of practicing holistic methods in medicine to heal their people. If we are people that is sick at the root, where do we start?
Well, what you mentioned is called nature deficiency order. And it just shows us as a biological people here from this earth, being around trees, being around running water, seeing the color green, which is chlorophyll. All of these things come with frequencies, and what these things does is it actually relaxes and it brings on something called the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is what brings on cortisol, and what brings on adrenaline. These are all what they call your fear, fight, or flight chemistry and hormones outside the body. They roam around in the body. But when you in nature, what nature does is it brings on serotonin, it brings on melatonin, it brings on oxytocin, dopamine. These are your happy chemicals and your happy hormone. But to answer the question, I think the first place we should start with health is with our mindset, with the environment, and knowing who we are biologically. We have been taught that everybody in this room is made and comprised of the same things, and we're not. Now, of course, we all share amino acids, we all share minerals and things like that, but depending on who you were created by, and I'm pretty sure Billy would get into this, we got different type of markers and different genetic codes that was mixed in us differently. So since black people are more mineral dense than any other people on planet Earth, that means we require more minerals. It's a fact. You can actually, if for a dead body, if a body died and it got burnt, and they came to the corpse and they didn't know what the corpse was, what they would do is they'd check the bones of that body and they'd check the teeth. Well, based off the mineral composition and the mineral density of those skeleton structures, they can tell you whether it was Caucasian, whether it was so-called African American or not. So I think the first step to health is everybody is not treated the same way when we sick. Everybody can't eat the same foods. Everybody got different blood types. Everybody got different anatomy and physiology. So I think understanding who we is as a people, that's when we can truly tap into our health. Like you came out here talking about culture. We're in a European culture and mindset. So we're eating European foods. We're learning European histories. We're following a European God. And we done got out of our indigenous mindset. So once we get back into our mindset, then that's when we can really find health.
Thank you.
As a matter of fact, when you look into the genetics of black people, and you look at these scientific studies that come out, they're not based on black people. The scientific studies are based on middle-aged Caucasian Europeans. And then the doctor's gonna prescribe you medication and pharmaceuticals based on a middle-aged European, but you're a black person, right? Of various different ages. So those things typically don't apply to you. Understanding that we have specific genes that can be activated, some are deactivated, and just like Yahki said, we're not like anyone else. Even going out in the sun, we need more sunlight than the average person.
Thanks.
Because what happens is when the sun comes down and reflects on our skin, the way our DNA is set up and the way our melanin is set up, it actually spreads out the heat, the light, the photons as heat. So we need to get more vitamin D, and the only way to do that is to stay in the sun longer, expose yourself to more sunlight so your body can absorb more of that energy, because we actually can alchemically convert that energy. And also, of course, understanding that our environment. So when you go out and finally find a way to get healthy, you have to go get a blood sample done, a blood panel, stool sample, and a saliva sample. That's gonna give you a full picture of exactly where you are health-wise. And then you take that and you sit down and you analyze that along with the nutritionist and create something specifically just for you. Because like Yahki said, every single person is different. Some things I can't eat. There are things, I can't eat spinach or kale because the oxalates and the lectins are gonna give me leaky gut. I've already experienced that. I'm on my health journey back. And understanding that we all have DNA, and some of it is called junk DNA. But this junk DNA is not junk. They're just finding out that a lot of it has purpose, a lot of it is connected, and a lot of it is actually feeding into your system. So you want to be able to do things like clean up your environment, because there's so many things around us that's destroying our DNA. And junk DNA is wordplay. What they try to do is get you to add that word junk, thinking it's useless, it's worthless, it has nothing to do with anything. But it's one of our biggest powers, and I believe that we have a lot of that power within us, but we've been tricked into thinking we can't access it. And how they trick us, not only by media, but they also trick us by the environment. We're talking about microplastics, which are everywhere. They find microplastics in our testicles now.
Yes.
Microplastics is outrageous. We have to start cleaning up our environment, understanding what we're eating, what we're drinking, where we're going to eat, what kind of oils are they using where we're going to eat. All those things are damaging our DNA, damaging our genetics, activating genes that bring on dis-ease, which leads to disease, and then you'll end up pushing up daisies. So we have to understand that and realize that in ancient times, there was a much different system. And the way that things were laid out for us initially, it was based on the genetic makeup of the human body.
Thanks.
And they were feeding people based on that in different regions of the planet. No matter where you were indigenously, your surroundings provided everything your body needed. And now, like you said, more European, so we have to keep that in mind, and we have to find out who we are and know more about our bodies than the doctors, because the doctors have a practice.
And there's ways to do that, Billy. So folic acid. See, you see, it's only a few hands. So even when you get into the structure of amino acid and carboxylic acids, we are more prone to have more carbon acids or carboxylic acids in our bodies than European, which have amino acids. Then you break these down into their subgroups, and you look at amino acids, it's built off of nitrogen. It's built off of ammonia, and it's built off of sulfur. These are your three main key ingredients that makes up a European. But when you look at it in ours is selenium, ours is copper, ours is melanin and carbon. So say if I do a genetic test on you and I get a genetic test on you based off the genetics you're missing, I know whether you're not getting serotonin or not. I know why your genes are not being turned on based off of who you are, your molecular structure. So what we do at our clinic is, if you come into my clinic, we give you a genetic test and we give you a full blood and comprehensive panel, and based off of that and who you are and your physiology, I know exactly what to put back into your body. Billy mentioned something very interesting. He was talking about vitamin D3, and he was talking about how all of their blood work and all of their testing in their pharmaceuticals is built off of the standard of a 40-year-old white man. So if you send a 14-year-old African American to the clinic right now or to the emergency room, all of their standards and statistics is based off a 40-year-old Caucasian male. How can it help out this 14-year-old black girl? So we have to start approaching health and wellness as individuals. And that's the only way we can get healed and get help. And you was talking about the carbon, you was talking about vitamin D. They don't even have the machines to even measure our vitamin D correctly. And Europeans, they measure the vitamin D3 inside their bloodstream. Our sun does something different. We go through something called biophotomodulation, meaning when the longer we sit in the sun, we have a way of dispersing the energy of the sun, and it don't only go in our bloodstream, but it goes deep into the middle of our cells, and they don't even have technology to measure that yet. That's why at least 80% of y'all so-called black people in this room right now is vitamin D3 deficient. But in fact, you're not really vitamin D3 deficient. They just don't have the right technology to test yours. So this is what we talk about when we talking about culture. The word culture means to cultivate. Cultivate comes from cultivation. This is farmer talk. This is permaculture and agriculture talk. This means to grow something. So bringing this from a health standpoint, if we know that there's not no technology out here that's really able to test our vitals, if we know that the blood work is based off of a 40-year-old Caucasian, then shouldn't we change the blood work panel to fit us? Shouldn't we create technologies and get together and figure out how to create the utensils and tools to really measure our vitamin D3? I'm asking y'all a question.
Yeah. Talk back to us.
So this is what Keys and Billy is talking about. Culture, really taking the bull by the horns and creating things for our situation and our needs. And I'm finna give it right back to you. I just want to do a quote. This came from John Henrik Clarke and Dr. Amos Wilson. He said the point and purpose of a culture is to meet the needs of a people and to solve the problems of a people. So if it's not meeting our needs and it's not solving our problem, then we can't call it culture.